Welcome back to SimShield Project episode 13, a series where I'm showcasing the sim racing setups of my viewers and hoping to give you all inspiration regarding all this hobby has to offer. I know it's been a while, but we're back, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Kicking off this episode, we have Christian, a 16-year-old from the United States who has invested an impressive $16,000 to $25,000 into his sim racing setup. His gear is held up by a Houston-built SimBrake GT, and he sits comfortably in an OMP WRCR fiberglass seat. Yes, I'm editing this video right now, and I realize it's a Spargo GP seat, as it's pretty obvious. It was late when I was recording the video, okay? For visuals, he's got three 32-inch curved Samsung monitors on an aluminum profile mount and an Oculus Quest 2 for VR racing. Christian has chosen a SimHQ SC2 Pro base and a pair of Cube Controls wheels, the CXS2 and the GT Sport, for his series setup. His pedals are the Houston-built Ultimate Plus, and he's rocking a Houston-built sequential shifter. To complete the setup, he has a Nexel Racing keyboard and mouse holder, Beyerdynamic MMX 150 headphones, and an Elgato Stream Deck he uses as a button box. The powerhouse PC running this setup features an AMD Ryzen 9 5900X, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070, and 32GB of DDR4 RAM, all housed in an NZXT H510 case. Christian, you have a crazy setup. Thank you for sharing. And next up, we have Jasper, a 15-year-old high school student from Malaysia who has spent around $3,000 in an entire year to build up his sim racing setup. The cockpit is a second-hand find with no logos, and he has a mix of monitors, a Samsung 60Hz TV, two Lenovo L22E20s, and an Acer KA221Q. The monitor mount is another second-hand find, and Jasper uses an Oculus Quest 2 for VR. His wheelbase is a Logitech G27 with a custom Nardi wheel attached. As for his pedals and shifters, he sticks with the G27 set and adds a third-party handbrake. Now, the PC powering his setup has a Zotac GTX 1080 Ti, an i5-9400F CPU, and 32GB of T-Force RAM. All of this is housed in a deep cool MacCube 110 case. Very unique setup. Thank you, Jasper, for sharing. Our third entry comes from Jonas, a 14-year-old student from Norway with a $3,000 sim racing setup. His rig is built around the Nexel Racing FGT cockpit and monitor stand with a 40-inch Samsung 1080p display. Jonas uses a Fanatec CSL Elite wheelbase and has both the Formula V2 and BMW V1 rims. The pedals are the Fanatec Clubsport V3, and he's also got the Fanatec Sequential V1.5 shifter and handbrake. His headphones of choice are the Razer Nari Ultimate, and the PC powering all of this features a GeForce GTX 1650, an Intel i5-9300H, and 16GB of RAM. A very impressive setup for a 14-year-old. Thank you, Jonas, for sharing. Our fourth entry is coming from Andrew, a 16-year-old student and a Subway employee from the United States. He has spent around 1.5 years building up his $4,000 setup, where he plays Assetto Corsa, Automobilista 2, iRacing, and of course ACC. Andrew's rig metal basic cockpit and NRG FRP 300 seat support his AOC 34-inch monitor, CSL direct drive wheelbase with the boost kit, the Fanatec McLaren GT3 and Formula 2.5X wheels, and the Clubsport pedals V3. His Fanatec shifter and Red Dragon speakers add to the immersion, as does his butt kicker, which is mounted below his seat. Of course, Andrew's custom-built PC is equipped with an RTX 3060, an Intel Core i5, and 16GB of RAM, all housed in a Lian Li LabCool 205 case. A very solid setup. Thank you, Andrew, for submitting. And of course, ending off with a bang, we have Theodore, who despite being only 15 years old, has an impressive bit of gear. Coming from Denmark, Theodore is rocking a single 49-inch super ultra-wide monitor, this of course being the Samsung Odyssey. This massive display is being held up by an integrated SimLab monitor mount, which matches perfectly with his SimLab P1X rig. Of course, you'll need a sturdy rig as he's gone with the Fanatec Podium DD1 alongside the Clubsport Formula V2.5X rim. Continuing with Fanatec down below, he's using the not so commonly seen inverted version of the Clubsport pedals V3 to further provide a more realistic experience. Of course, to sit, Theodore has got a very cool and probably very expensive bucket seat, being the Sparco GP. Now powering this setup, he's got a capable PC with an NVIDIA GTX 2080 Super Wide Edition, an i9-9900K, 32GB of Corsair Vengeance RAM, and all this housed in an RGB Corsair case. A very impressive setup for a 15-year-old. Thank you, Theodore, for submitting. And just like that, this rounds off SimTour Project episode 13. If you've enjoyed, consider pressing the like button as it massively helps with the algorithm. And with all that said, thank you all for watching, stay safe, and have a fantastic rest of your day.